Yo, what's up? Unrivaled, the official podcast of Penn State football.
We're coming to your city!
This might be the best crowd we've ever had. Ride the wave! Wide out conditions in Happy Valley.
I'm going with Penn State.
Give them that
On this episode of the Unrivaled Podcast, we welcome in Rece Davis, host of ESPN's College GameDay. And Rece, I know this is the third consecutive year that you guys are back on campus, the first time that's ever happened in school history. So for you, what is it like when you come back to Happy Valley?
I think it's one of the great venues and settings for college football. It's obviously a tremendous college town. We've been fortunate enough to be here for the whiteouts, which I think is one of the cool spectacles in the sport. One of the places where the crowd has a huge impact on the way the game unfolds. And, you know, it's the quintessential place for college football. I think when you have the great college town, you have the enthusiastic, gargantuan crowd of well over 100,000 people, and then you have something that is special and unique to the place, their version of the whiteout. I don't know whether people do whiteouts and various color outs. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the lighting in the stadium, if it's the fact that very few refuse to participate, or just the energy by announcing that it is a whiteout. It seems different than most of the other color outs that you see in college football.
What makes it different? Because like you said, there's 110,000 plus people in there the last two seasons. What makes it so different?
I don't know. I mean, I wish I could give you the great answer. Yes, I figured it out. Here's what makes it different. But I think some of it has to do with, you know, the lighting and the structure. It's kind of shadowy and it's a little eerie in there at night. And then you get the lights and then everybody's in white. And it's sort of this flash, you know, in front of you. And you know, it's like you're, you know, totally surrounded by stormtroopers or something. And it's, you know, it's really a great thing to see.
Now, you were able to attend the Penn State Whiteout last season and be down on the field we hear from players all the time and coaches what it's like for them to kind of take that scene in. But for you, when you kind of looked around at the stadium, there's 110,000 people in there. What was it like in your head?
I walked out of the tunnel at the start of it, and there was such a surge of energy, I think, and I wasn't even doing anything. I wasn't even working. I was just walking out in the field to watch the game. I actually had my wife with me last year, and we walk out through the tunnel. We go in, and she had been here for a game. I'd been to the Michigan game the year before, so I'd seen a previous one. And I told her, I said, "You're going to love this," and she hadn't been. And she walked in, and she goes, "This is pretty awesome." And so it was, I think there's just a surge of adrenaline that comes in, whether even if you're just coming in to watch, and then you multiply that by a gajillion probably if you're actually out there playing.
Let's talk a little bit football. So Penn State, the football program itself, where would you assess the state of where the program stands today?
Pretty broad question, but I would say it's in great standing. It's it's a national contender. Obviously, they're still looking to take that next step. You know, they've won a Big Ten championship, need to get into the playoff. And I think the one thing that is probably most impressive up to this point is the sustainability of excellence. And that, to me, is the ultimate mark of a program. You lose a guy like McSorley. You lose a guy like Saquon. And then there's no replacing those guys, particularly a guy like Saquon. But you still have new stars come in. You still continue to win at a high level. And you continue to develop guys into big-time stars. And, you know, not just at the marquee positions, but, you know, Penn State's got two great defensive ends now. And then the defense, while a bit, as we speak here, a bit overshadowed by Wisconsin because it's kind of ridiculous to shut out 4 of your 6 opponents. I don't care who they are. You know, in this day and age of ball where everybody scores, you start diving a little deeper into the numbers and you see, well, Penn State's done the same thing. They just haven't put the same number of zeros up on the board. And so I think the sustainability of being able to compete at a high level is the most impressive thing to me and probably the most telling thing about the state of the program.
You mentioned Trace McSorley. There were so many question marks, obviously, when he left to go to the NFL, pursue his further career, and there was question marks of, is Sean Clifford going to be the starting quarterback, Tommy Stevens at the time, and all that stuff. Then Tommy Stevens obviously transfers to Mississippi State, but Sean Clifford and the job that he's done coming in, doing what he's doing, putting up numerous 200-plus yard passing games week in and week out, how impressed have you been by number 14?
He commands respect, and if you're going to wear that number here, you'd better play well and command some respect. I mean, a lot of great quarterbacks who've worn number 14. I think the thing that was really pleased to see for him is in the offseason, the quote that got a lot of play when he stood up and told his teammates that there would be no drop-off at the position. That's been well documented and repeated. And then to go out and back that up and to see the type of belief that his teammates have in him, I think, and you see him continue now to evolve and grow and be more willing to make plays. And I think James challenged him to be able to be a better runner so that he could help them with his feet. And then you start to see evidence in crucial situations that he makes first downs when he needs to, uses his weapons well. And I think you can see that there's just going to be more and more upside with him as he gets more and more experience.
You mentioned his run game. I was talking to KJ Hamler, obviously one of the nation's top wide receivers in the country. He was saying that he was giving Cliff some crap as far as he'd run a 4.8 coming out of high school and their relationship. Now he's down to a 4.5, so that's cool to see you talk about the speed.
Whoa. Who's at a 4.5?
That KJ said that Cliff is down to 4.5.
I'm going to need.
You challenge that?
Yeah, I'm going to need to see that.
I mean,
well, the thing is because now a high school. It's funny how guys get slower. You know, you come out of high school and you're running 4.37. Then you get to college and you're running 4.42. Then you get to the combine and it's 4.6. You know, I mean, so basically what I'm saying is sometimes those stopwatches
a little quick.
Yeah, they can be helpful sometimes in certain situations. But you know what? You don't have to beat the clock. You have to beat the defender to the marker, and that's what he's been able to do. But 4.5, hey, you know what? I don't want to cast a spur. If he can do it, he can do it.
We'll find out.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to do a little drill with the old Sean Clifford. You mentioned James Franklin as well. Where do you think the biggest impact is that he has had within this program during his 6 years in Happy Valley?
Enthusiasm, energy, positive belief, and just sort of relentlessly being behind his guys and being out front. I think with everything that happened here and with the changes and with Bill O'Brien leaving quickly after that, needed some energy. And James has brought that. And I said to some media people earlier that I think he's a little bit underrated as a coach nationally, but I think that's starting to change because they continue to have success. And also you start to look back and you go, wait a minute, that guy won at Vanderbilt. What do you mean he won at Vanderbilt? Nobody does that. And, it's every circumstance is different. I know, but I think that as he continues to have some repeated success at Penn State, I think the appreciation for what level of coach he is continues to grow. I think people always thought that James was a good coach. I think now that maybe they're starting to look at him and say, you know what, maybe we should say this guy's a great coach. You gotta compete for championships. They've won a conference. They need to get in the playoff to do that. And that's just sort of the way our sporting culture is. There can be great coaches who never win anything. I mean, tremendous coaches, and maybe they're not in the right place, the right time, or whatever the circumstances may be. But the way we evaluate them now is how big do you win? And that's sort of the business we have chosen and they have chosen. So I think that Penn State is close to doing that, and as a result, I think James's profile and the regard and recognition that he gets will continue to grow.
Is it a culmination of all those things that you just said that makes you say you feel like he is one of the more underrated coaches in the country?
Yeah, I think it's changing though. I think you're starting to see, and not the Penn State fans are going to want to hear this, but like coaching jobs come open, or guys who might go to the NFL someday, or whatever job it might be out there. Well, his name's going to be there now, and so I don't know why you'd leave here. This is one of the premier jobs in the sport. I'm not suggesting otherwise, but that's recognition. I think that's a good thing, because if your coach is someone that no one else wants, well, pretty soon you're not going to want him either. So, I think it's a great thing if other people are saying, well, maybe someday he'll go to the NFL or maybe this job or that job or whatever it might be. That's good. And I think that's good for Penn State and good for the brand and good for James.
In your mind, what is the pivotal factor, the turning point, whatever you want to say, that's going to get Penn State that ultimate Big Ten championship and beyond?
Well, it's the standard in the division. It's Ohio State. I mean, Penn State has competed with them quite well, but this, as we speak right now, this particular year, I have them ranked number 1 in the country. So if you're going to win the division and get to the Big Ten championship game and compete for a spot in the college football playoff, you got to beat them. Got to beat teams like that. They're the gold standard. And so I think that's the pivotal game. I mean, if Penn State is capable of doing those things, then they're going to take care of the other things leading up to it because there's no one else at that level. And then they find out whether they, this year, are at that level. I think program-wise, over the course of the next several years, as they continue to recruit and bring in elite talent, they'll be able to compete with Ohio State. But I'm talking about this year. What determines where they are this year in terms of being a contender will be determined by how they perform in that game.
So let me ask you this. As we talk today ahead of Penn State and Michigan, there's still a long way to go in the season,
right.
But based off of the strength of the Big Ten Conference, and you look around, you said that you have Ohio State ranked number 1. Do you feel that the Big Ten could have 2 teams in that college football playoff?
I think it's unlikely. I really think it's unlikely for any conference, but I was talking to our analytics guys just a few days ago, and with Georgia's loss to South Carolina, I don't know if there's another condition attached to it, but there's not a big degree of difference in the probability of the SEC or the Big Ten getting 2. I'm just not sure that the circumstances will fall just right. It would have to be something like Ohio State. Ohio State's probably a better example because they have Wisconsin in the regular season. It would probably be something like Ohio State hammering Wisconsin a couple of times and then Penn State, losing a nail biter. Something like that would be the best case scenario. You flip it around and have Penn State beat Ohio State, who beat Wisconsin, and Penn State beats Wisconsin again. I think it probably lessens the probability. But all of that, there's so many other circumstances and things that have to fall into place. Things have to be just right, I think, for just about any conference to get to. I know we've seen it. I know it's happened, but even that year, the circumstances sort of fell just right.
Let's jump outside of the football field. So I think it's always super interesting, the perspective that you get with College Game Day. Not everybody knows what your schedule is and your weekly schedule, the grind that you have to go through and stuff like that. But take me through, let's say, it's Thursday today. So take me Thursday through Saturday evening, what your schedule looks like.
Well, a lot of it is done by then. The writing per se or the outline, we don't have a prompter or anything like that. But the last writing, really what you're doing is taking all the information, the most of it anyway, that you've accumulated over the course of the week and starting to pare it down to what you want to use. And obviously that is augmented by things you find out on Thursday night and Friday night from, people who are either covering the games or connected to the team or coaches that that will trust you with something. All of those little nuggets and tidbits of information that get added almost up until showtime. You sort of start paring that down. But in terms of the planning and what we're going to talk about, direction we'll go here, games we'll focus on, tapes, all of that kind of thing is planned early in the week. Not that it doesn't change. Even on Friday morning in the production meeting, invariably things will change. I said to our producer, Jim Galliero, the other day, I asked to add something last week, and I said, I know that kills you a little bit. And, to add something because he's responsible for the time and everything. And I said, and I wish I had all of my ideas on Monday or Tuesday, but sometimes I just don't think of something until Friday, and so, but our guys are extraordinarily nimble and able to make those types of changes. So things, we are constantly tweaking and trying to produce the show for greatness as best we can up until Saturday starts. Then we try to execute it for greatness, and poor Jim's sitting in that truck trying to get us off by 12 o'clock when the game starts. So, but it's fun and it's constant, and we really will start the preparation for a show on a very small scale, at least in casual conversations, really on Saturday afternoon. By Sunday, Jim and I, and Kirk's very involved, and Chris Felica, the Bears, very involved too, will be, and Drew Gallagher, our coordinating producer, will be like, by Monday, we're in it. We're into rundown and games and storylines and what feature do we want and what interview do we want and which coach can we get on and, what can we do with that? All of that stuff. By Monday, we're neck deep.
What's your favorite part of the show when the bright lights come on and ESPN SportsCenter tosses to you guys it's College Game Day and all eyes are on you for the weekend? That
moment. I know it might sound a little selfish. We call it the scene set. I love the scene set. The one we had Corso crowd surf, here a couple years ago. Pollock ended up jumping in spontaneously and doing it. That was not in the scene set. I like the rush and the adrenaline that you feel from setting the stage for a college football Saturday, being in a great venue with fans who are excited, about their team, their program, the game, the day, game day. They're jacked up and they are showcasing on television why this is important to them. And they're sharing it with people out there. And I get to have that moment at the start of the show to lay it out, scenes that hopefully capture something that is unique to that place. We a couple of weeks ago at Florida, we used some footage from the swamps just off the edge of campus where there are actual alligators there. We used that. We used the famous call at LSU last week where, the sun has set in the western sky and it is now Saturday night in Death Valley. Played that right off the top and say before the night, the morning, and, and they go crazy. And here we've done we want the lion and the Corso surfing. And, I want to showcase the things that make a campus and a program and a team different and unique. And so hopefully we do that. You're not always going to be able to do it, and you don't want to go to the same well over and over again if you come to a place 3 years in a row as we've come here. But I love that moment. It gets the show started, and there's an adrenaline surge that is really unlike anything I've experienced in television.
How long does it take you to come up with that intro, as we call it in the industry? Is that like a week-long process? Is that how does that happen?
It totally depends. Sometimes you've got a great idea on Monday, and you've got a really good idea of what you're going to say. You try also, the other thing is you try not to totally script it, because you want to, if you see a sign or a person or something that happens, you want to react to it, but you want to be outlined. So sometimes early in the week, sometimes I'm sitting in my hotel room on Friday night thinking about, okay, it's hard to say how long. Sometimes you just got it and boom, go. And other weeks you kind of wrestle with it for a little while.
What went into the Corso decision a couple of years ago to have him crowd surf? Take us through that decision.
Do you know this story or not?
No.
Are you asking? Okay. I've told this story on our College Football 150 project a couple of times. It might be the quintessential Corso story, at least in my time on Game Day. So, I found the tradition and I decided, hey, the Lion's going to be there. We'll get them to crowd surf the Lion just like they do in the stadium when they chant for him. It'd be a cool thing for people to see. And I was telling Herbie about it, and he goes, why don't we ask LC if he'll do it? And I was like, you think he would? And he goes, I don't know. So we asked him, and he says, yeah, I'll do it. That was Friday morning. So now I'm really excited, right? But as the day goes along, I start to get nervous. LC's in great shape. I'm not worried about them dropping him. I'm more worried about them not putting him down soon enough to get him back to the set for the open of the show, because we wanted to be comfortable and prepared and ready to go and all of that. And so I tell security, we've got a great security team. I said, look, if there's any doubt, if there's any, if you don't feel good about it, just say so. We've got the line. It'll still be cool. Everything, it'll be great. So day goes along. Saturday morning comes, and they say, our director, Rodney Perez, says 90 seconds to show. Hey, RD, security say no go on Corso. No go. Said, no problem. I said, open me up to coach. I'll tell him. So I opened my mic so Lee could hear me. And I said, hey, LC, look. I said, security's nervous about you crowd surfing here, so we're killing it, not doing it. Come on back up to the set. Never forget what Corso said. He goes, hell no, sweetheart, we're doing it. And so he he's doing it. And so he did, and it was great. He looked like he had a good time.
That's unbelievable. I've never heard that story before. That's a good one.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I appreciate you stopping by on this episode of the Unrivaled Podcast, and good luck to you the rest of the season as well.
Thanks a lot.
All right. We'll see you next time on the Unrivaled Podcast.
Unrivaled, the official podcast of Penn State football.